Thank you all for joining us for today's Main Street Micro Business Loan Information Session. And today, our presentation will be done by NJEDA's Program Manager, Business Banking, Nahima Marshall, and I am going to switch it over to her. Go ahead.
Thank you, Caitlin, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule today to join the informational session on the NJEDA Main Street Micro Business Loan. Like Caitlin said, my name is Naima Marshall, Program Manager of Business Banking. And our goal today is to inform you of the Main Street Micro Business Loan product. We will cover applicant eligibility along with details about the features and the benefits of the loan. After the product overview, we will then walk through the application process. So, like Caitlin said, please utilize the Q&A feature to ask questions so that a member of our team can answer those questions as we move about the presentation. We will also have a representative available to answer any questions in the Q&A feature that may be asked in Spanish. The Q&A feature is located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. So also in the chat box, you will find the link to the webpage for the Main Street Micro Business Loan. There you will be able to access other resources to help prepare you for when the application goes live on October 6th. And lastly, a recording of the session and a copy of this presentation will also be posted on the website. All right, so for those of you who may not have worked with the EDA before, I'd like to just tell you a little bit about the agency. The EDA is New Jersey's principal agency for driving economic growth. Some of the EDA's key strategies are to help build strong and dynamic communities, create good jobs for New Jersey residents, and provide pathways to a stronger and fairer economy. In 2020, Governor Murphy signed into law the Economic Recovery Act, the ERA, which implemented over 15 programs, one of them being the Main Street Recovery Program. So I'd like to take a moment just to thank Governor Murphy and our state legislators in seeing this through. And I'd also like to thank our CEO, Tim Sullivan, for making this program a priority for our small businesses. So as of today, $150 million has been appropriated to the fund products within this program. All of the products share a common purpose of supporting the growth and the success of New Jersey small businesses. These products consist of grants to small businesses to support businesses with renovations, improvements, their lease payments, and the purchase and installation of furniture, fixtures, and equipment. It also includes resources for lenders. This is done so that those lenders can actually in turn go out and support more micro businesses with loans and technical assistance. And lastly, there are products that consist of low-cost financing to support New Jersey micro businesses, which brings us to the topic of the conversation today at this info session, the Main Street Micro Business Loan. So the Main Street Micro Business Loan will provide financing of up to $50,000 to eligible micro businesses in New Jersey with 10 or fewer full-time employees and no greater than $1.5 million in annual gross revenues. The product is open to nonprofit businesses, for-profit businesses, and home-based micro businesses who have less than $1.5 million in annual gross revenues, and that will be based on the last federal tax return that the applicant was required to file. The business must have at least one owner with a minimum credit score of 600. Nonprofits must meet a minimum debt service coverage ratio of 1.0 times. And businesses who apply must have no more than 10 full-time employees at the time of application and 3 months prior to application. All employees must work in New Jersey as evidenced by the New Jersey WR-30 filing, and there's no minimum employee number, and sole proprietors are eligible. The business must be legally registered to do business in New Jersey with a business location including a home office in New Jersey, and the business must be formed at least 6 months prior to the date of application. The business must be in good standing with the New Jersey Department of Labor and Workforce Development and New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection at the time of application. Eligible uses for this loan include the future operating expenses for the business, which may be held as working capital to fund those operating expenses, future inventory expenses, the future purchases of equipment, as long as installation and construction costs do not exceed $1,999.99. Some examples of these expenses include the business's payroll, the rent for the business mortgage payment, taxes, utilities, and marketing for the business. Funding cannot be used for the refinancing of existing debt. It cannot be used for the reimbursement of expenses or costs or purchases that have already been paid by the business. It cannot be used for personal or non-business obligations or costs incurred by related entities. Ineligible costs also include construction and equipment requiring the installation or construction costs of it in excess of $1,999.99. You cannot use the funds for rolling stock, such as cars, trucks, vans, and home-based businesses cannot use the loan proceeds for any residential costs to include the home utility payments, the mortgage payments, or even the lease payment. The terms of the Main Street microbusiness loan are very flexible. It's a standard 10-year term, 2% interest rate, no principal or interest payments for the first year, and there's no collateral or personal guarantees required. There's a forgiveness option, which is very generous. It includes that the loan balance can be fully forgiven at the end of the 5th year if the applicant is not currently in default, has no payment delinquencies of 90 days or more, is still open and operating, and has used the loan proceeds for the approved purposes. Fees include a $100 application fee and a $400 closing fee for working capital up to $50,000. So the application will launch October 6th at 10 a.m. and you'll be able to access the application at njeda.com/microbusiness loan. Customer care has Spanish-speaking staff in their call center that consists our Spanish-speaking customers. And for all other language assistance, applicants can email languagehelp@njeda.com with their name, their spoken language, and the telephone number. You can create an account at the NJEDA Online Application Center today by visiting programs.njeda.com. Applications will be reviewed on a first come, first served basis from when they are initially submitted, and we'll go through several stages of review with our NJEDA staff, and our staff will communicate with the applicants throughout the application process. Applications will be accepted until all funding is committed or 3 years after the date of application launch, whichever comes sooner. Now we are going to review the application process. So after you've gone to the application page at the programs.njeda.com, you will see the NJEDA Application Center where you can click on Sign In the upper right-hand corner. After you click Sign In, if you've applied for one of the EDA programs in the past and you've used this portal, you will simply just enter your username and password to log in. If this is the first time you're using the portal to apply for an EDA product, you will need to click on Register. And if you applied with EDA before using the portal, but maybe you've forgotten your password or your username, you can click on the Forgot Username option at the bottom and follow the instructions from there. An email will be sent to you with your username and instructions on how to reset the password. So here's where you just want to keep in mind, you want to keep your password handy and in a safe place so that you have it ready for when the application goes live. If this is your first time using the portal to apply for one of EDA programs, you will need to register. After you click on Register, you will be prompted to enter your email address and to create a username and password. Your username can be the same as your email, but just keep in mind that whatever email you use, that it is an email you check frequently and have access to. This will be the main way that we will communicate with you throughout the application process. Once you've created your password, you'll confirm your password and click on Register. Again, just make sure you write down that password and keep it in a safe place so that you're ready to apply at the time the application goes live. All right, if you have previously applied for other EDA programs using this portal, like our COVID programs or our Small Business Improvement Grant or our Small Business Lease Grant, we may have your email address in our system. And if that's the case, you'll see a little pop-up come up to let you know that we recognize that email and we already have it in our system. So in order to proceed, you will need to email yourself an invitation code and use that to access the program application. To begin the process of sending the invitation code, simply click on OK on the first pop-up you see. After you click on OK on the first pop-up, the next screen will ask you to click on Send Invitation and will tell you where the invitation will be sent. Then, as shown in step number 2 here, you will click on the link sent to your email, which will take you back to the application. The email will come from CRM No Reply, so make sure if you're waiting for an email from us that you're checking your junk or your spam folders, just so that you don't miss the email. You will then follow the steps as shown here on bullet 3 and 4 by entering your username and then your password twice to confirm that it is correct, and then proceed with registration by clicking on Register. Once you click Register, you will need to set up the applicant profile. It is here where you would need to fill in all required information such as your name, your last name, your phone number, and then you will need to confirm that your email address is correct, as this is the primary way that we will contact your business throughout the application process. Once you complete that information, you will be asked again to confirm your email. Once your email is confirmed, you will want to return to the portal to begin your application starting October 6th at 10 a.m. These are all steps that you can actually take now to make sure that you are registered in the portal and that you have your sign-on credentials already established before the application goes live. If you are having any issues creating a username, redeeming an invitation code, or with your password, or just simple login issues, you can call our customer care line at 844-965-1125 or visit NJEDA.com to use the chat box feature. All right, so once your email is confirmed, you'll come back to the application center to begin the application. Once signed in, you will click on the product named Main Street Micro Business Loan as seen here. After clicking on a product, the next page you see will cover product eligibility. We strongly recommend that you read this information on this page before proceeding with the application. This page will cover eligibility and eligible use of funds. We covered that in the beginning, but please just take note of this page once more before you proceed with the application. In addition to this, there's a note on this page to remind you that there is a limit of 1 loan per business EIN. This means that if you are a business entity with multiple locations operating under a single EIN, you are limited to 1 application under that sole EIN. Once you've read through the information provided here, you can click on the Create button to begin the application. But before we get to that, I want to also point out that there is a link to the Main Street Microbusiness Loan application checklist, and this checklist is also available now on our website. Here's a snapshot of the checklist. The checklist will guide you as to what documentation you need to gather prior to the launch of the application. I cannot stress enough how important it is to use this list to not only prepare you for the application, but to also ensure that your application can be completed in its entirety. Using the checklist will also help the EDA move the application review process along efficiently by limiting the going back and forth. So the less time spent doing that, the quicker we will see applications decisions. This next section of the application collects the contact information for individuals we may need to speak with regarding the application. Here you will provide the contact information for the primary point of contact within the applicant's company. This is the contact that the EDA will keep updated on the status of the application. If the answer is no to any of the above questions, which then implies that the primary contact is not the CEO, the owner, or equivalent, or the media contact, the applicant will have an opportunity to enter this information later in the application. If the primary point of contact is not the authorized representative, on the next screen, the applicant will be prompted to fill out the contact information for the authorized representative. It is very important to know that this application must be submitted by an individual who is legally authorized to sign documents on behalf of the applicant company. If the primary point of contact is the authorized representative, you will not see this page. If the primary point of contact does not hold the role of CEO, owner, or equivalent, here's where they will need to enter the information for the CEO, owner, or equivalent highest ranking executive for the applicant company. Again, if the primary point of contact is the CEO or the owner or equivalent, you won't see this page. The next page will give you the option to designate a media contact. If you select yes, you will be prompted to fill out additional contact information for the media contact. And once all contact information is completed, you will be asked to provide information about the company that is applying for assistance. It's important that you enter the business name correctly here. If you have a DBA and your business operates under a different name, you will need to also provide that information along with a certificate of trade name. And the application will walk you through that.
Nye, can I hop in real quick? We do have a special guest. I know you're in the middle of the walkthrough of the application process. Hopefully this doesn't disrupt things too much for our attendees, but we do have our NJEDA CEO with us, and he definitely recognizes the importance of this program and wants to express his support directly. So do want to give him a moment. So Tim Sullivan, if you can say a few words, the floor is yours.
Great, thanks, Caitlin. And Nye, sorry to interrupt you. I apologize. I wish I could have been on time. I was just getting back from Camden. And appropriately enough to be on a sad day with the loss of Governor Florio, to be in his home city, doing some good for the environment, doing some good for the city of Camden. Felt good. Anyway, I'll shut up because I know you were all here to learn all the things that Nye is talking about, which is how do you get access to this great new program. Not to hear from me, but I just want to thank everyone who's on the call or on the Zoom for their interest in this program. You know, Governor Murphy has made small businesses broadly and micro businesses in particular a real centerpiece of our economic strategy. We've committed hundreds of millions of dollars of funding to our smallest businesses in the state because we know the tremendous challenges and tremendous potential that you all have to be engines for our economic growth. There's 829 people on the call. If everybody if that each represented a small business or a micro business, and you each added one person, this would be the most productive call of all time in terms of job creation and return on investment. So this is an extraordinary opportunity. It's a great program. We're really excited about it. Nye and the team are doing a great job telling you all about it. So I will shut up and yield the floor back to you, other than to say thanks for your interest. We're excited about this program. Governor Murphy and our team have your back as a small business owner, and this program is just one way of us showing it. So Nye, back to you.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you so much for your support in seeing the rollout of this product and just the highest priority that you put into this. So we appreciate all that you've done to see this through. All right, so we're at the applicant organization screen. On this page here, you will be prompted to select your entity type. So for example, if you're LLC, you'll use the drop down to select LLC. If you're a sole proprietor, you'll select sole proprietor, nonprofit, so on and so forth. In the same section, you will find that the formation documents are optional and do not have to be included in this application. However, sole proprietors and general partnerships must upload their certificate of trade name filed with the county clerk. If your entity is a nonprofit, you will also need to upload the schedule of death form, and this form can be found on the application checklist that I spoke about earlier. If your entity is involved in religious activities or is religiously affiliated, the NJEDA will need to collect a religious activity questionnaire. All right, after providing the entity information, you will use the search bar to enter your NJEDA code. So you will be able to do this by searching the type of business or the industry in which the business operates. Please be sure that the NJEDA code identified is the same code that is listed on your most recent tax filing. Next, you will be asked to upload the current New Jersey tax clearance certificate. This document is not required at the time of application, but will be required prior to your loan approval. Certificates may be requested online through the Premier Business Services portal. And if the applicant's account is in compliance with its tax obligations and no liabilities exist, the Business Incentive Tax Clearance Certificate can be printed directly through the Premier Business Services portal. The tax clearance certificate does expire after 6 months. So you want to make sure that when you submit the certificate that it is valid and that you have the correct agency. So you'll have an option to select different agencies. You want to use the drop-down for New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Instructions for securing your tax clearance certificate are located on the website and also on the application checklist. Also on this page, if you have received prior NJEDA assistance, you will need to describe the assistance. So be as specific as possible, include dates, amount, and the type of assistance your business received. So again, all good things for you to gather and have ready for when you do go and apply. The next section, you will be asked to provide organization details. Here, you will enter the number of full-time and part-time employees, that is at the time of application, and the number of employees 3 months prior to the date of application. You will also need to disclose if you are home-based here. And as a reminder, home-based businesses cannot use the loan proceeds for any residential costs like their home mortgage payment, their lease payments, their home utility payments. When asked to provide your annual gross revenue on this page of the application, this amount must match the information provided on the applicant's most recent filed federal income tax return. Once you do this, you will be required to upload 3 years of tax returns. So that will be 2019, 2020, and 2021. Now, if you have not filed your 2021 tax return, you will need to upload 2018, 2019, and 2020 and provide proof of your approved IRS tax return extension. If the business was newly established in 2021 and you have not yet to file 2021, you will be required to provide proof of your approved IRS tax return extension. The EDA will proceed with the review of your application only after you've submitted your 2021 tax return for review. And lastly, if your business was newly established in 2022 and formed within 6 months of the date of application, you will be asked to provide financial statements and profit and loss reports. This next section covers the business location. Here, you will want to click on the Add a Business Location button to provide the information on all applicants' business locations in New Jersey. In doing so, a location pop-up will appear and prompt you to answer the series of questions for that business location. On the next page of the application, you will need information, or you'll need to provide information for all individuals and or entities that have an ownership percentage in your business. You will click on the Add Owner button to begin this. And in completing this, it is the responsibility of the applicant to add all individuals and entities that have ownership percentage in the business. There will be a pop-up where you can complete the information and enter the ownership percentage for each owner. After all owner information is submitted, the applicant will be prompted to authorize the EDA to obtain a credit bureau check on the business owners. Minimum credit score to qualify or to be eligible is 600 from at least one business owner. In the next section, we will ask you for the information about the diversity of your company. The EDA will use this information for tracking purposes only. And next, you will need to identify what the financing will be used for. So here, you will want to identify the amount of the funding needed for each of the selected uses. And the total funding requested cannot be more than $50,000. So for future inventory, you will want to upload copies of estimates like quotes or invoices demonstrating the cost of future inventory. For future purchases of equipment, you will want to upload copies of estimates or invoices to prove the cost of the equipment. Now, if the equipment requires a major professional installation, then you must provide estimates for the installation as well. For future payroll, you will want to upload payroll reports, ledgers, to show your payroll costs. Some other examples might be your 940 or your 941s, your current payroll summary report, just to support what your payroll costs are. And for future rent or lease payments, you would want to upload a copy of your current business lease with or rental information to show the lease or rental costs for the business property. For future mortgage payments, you want to upload a copy of your most recent business mortgage statement or bill as evidence of the mortgage costs for the business property. For future taxes, you want to upload the most recent municipal statement or bill evidencing the tax costs for the business property. And for future utilities, you want to upload the most recent utility bills which reflect the utility costs for the business property. All right, so the next page, we will ask about the type of business conducted based off EDA's program requirements. You'll go through and answer these questions here. Once that is done, you will find a legal questionnaire. This questionnaire will need to be completed and signed by an authorized representative. Prior to the application, you can also download a full copy of the legal questionnaire if needed. Next is the certification of non-involvement in prohibited activities. Here you will need to certify that the applicant is not engaged in prohibited activities in Russia or Belarus. As you move forward in the application, you will need to certify that all information presented in the application is true and accurate, and you would do that here at the certification of application. You'll then be asked to acknowledge the loan fees. So the application fees of $100 and the closing fee of $400 are non-refundable, and you would need to acknowledge that here before proceeding with the application. Once you acknowledge the fee, you will be prompted to enter your payment method. Now, if you can pay by credit card, that will be, recommended if possible, because it will expedite the review process. If paying by credit card, you will be taken out of the application page to the payment processing page. And once the fee is submitted, you will be sent back to finish the application. Be advised that if you do pay by check, the NJEDA must confirm receipt of the check before we review any of the application. Once you submitted your payment, you will be asked for your electronic signature to then submit the application. The submission confirmation page will list your application confirmation number, and all future application communication will be sent to this email provided in the application. After you submitted the application, you can return to the portal homepage. Here you will be able to see the application was submitted. And as your application moves through the review process, this page will also be updated with the status of your application. So that does conclude the overview of the Main Street Microbusiness Loan product and application process. You can find more information by visiting njeda.com/microbusinessloan. And you can also email questions regarding the product and email it to smallbusinessservices@njeda.com or by calling customer care at 844-965-1125. So it looks like we do have some time left to get to some questions.
Ty, let's just go through some of them. Caitlin, I'm not sure if you pulled some of the questions up, but there's a bunch that we already are coming through. So Alberto just pulled this one out. I've seen this question a couple of times. What credit bureau do we use for the credit score? And the credit score question is very important. So Nye, if you want to start there, and then we'll go through the rest of the questions. So go ahead, Nye.
Well, you know what, that is a really good question. I know we pull all three. So Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, and we'll use the one that has at least 600. One of them has to have at least 600. So does that answer your question?
I think there were a few other ones kind of around credit. One of them was explicitly, if you do not have that credit level of 600, that credit score of 600, are you automatically declined?
Yes. Yeah. At least one of the credit bureaus has to have the 600. And, you know, the great thing is that we're going to look at all three. So we just need one of them to have the 600, and we just need one owner to have a 600.
And then what, will there be an impact? Is it a hard pull when you check those credits? And okay, so it will be a hard pull.
That's a really good question too. I'm kind of funny about my credits. I'm glad you asked that question. It is not a soft pull. It will be a hard pull, and it will show up on your credit report.
And then Christina, I think you had a franchise question that you wanted to address live. I saw you pop back in there for a second. Go ahead.
That was my mistake by hitting the live function. But yes, they are eligible as well too. I just wanted to say that. And I'm trying to get through the questions as fast as possible as well too.
I have a question here. Are startups approved to apply? I have another very successful business. Will that help? So startups are eligible. However, your business would have had to been formed in at least 6 months prior to the date of applying. And of course, you would need to submit eligible expenses as well to validate what you are requesting, the amount you are requesting. And that goes with saying the loan is up to $50,000. So you do want to look at your budget, because this is a loan, right? So you want to know that you want to actually take out a full, what amount you want to take out. You may not necessarily need the full $50,000. So you want to understand that in its entirety too, prior to applying. I have another question here. So it says, if my business is new, can I use my tax returns from my main source of income? So if your business is new and was established in 2022, we will ask you for financial statements and a profit and loss report. If it was established in 2021, we would want to see your approved IRS extension, along with the fact that we will also want to see your 2021 tax return prior to in order to review your application. So we're not going to review your application in its entirety until we see your 2021 tax return. And this is for businesses who were newly established in 2021.
Great. I'm going to give you another one now, just because I'm here. I'm going through the list really quickly. One of the questions I saw was about cannabis. This specific product is not eligible for cannabis businesses, conditional license holders, or annual. EDA is actually setting up a product for cannabis businesses specifically. And as soon as that comes up, we'll make sure that the folks that are on this call that were interested in cannabis products specifically will have that information. The other one for you, Nye, two things. One, will this be made public? So that's a yes. And the second one is, if I own multiple businesses with different EINs, can I apply for each one?
Yes, you can, absolutely. So you can apply for each one if you have multiple. So if you have a business and you have multiple locations and those locations operate under one EIN, you would need to apply under that one EIN for those multiple locations. But if you have multiple separate entities with separate EINs, then you would need to submit an application for each separate EIN.
We have another question from Mr. Holland. It just came in at 2:43. Let that one just go 1 second because it just went off. What if you don't have a tax return because it wasn't required? I don't know if that's possible, but that's a question just about tax returns and how to upload that information.
So I think that could be a question that maybe you could send to our small business services mailbox, just so we can completely understand the structure of your business, because sometimes there are parent companies involved and so on and so forth, but we can just maybe dissect exactly how your business is structured. We can properly answer that question. So I would say direct that question to our small business services at NJEDA.com so we can get a little bit more information about your business.
Great. And Sylvia Santos asked a question. What is the time period for use of funds to be eligible for forgiveness? And I know that one has come up there a while because this is a forgivable loan. Can you go into that in a little bit more detail?
Yeah, so the loan is forgivable. So at the end of the 5th year, if you're approved, your closing documents will have a form, a certification form where you would need to attest to being open and operating, using the funds for approved purposes only, paying as the loan agreement is stated, and no 90-day delinquencies. The EDA will also not only have you confirm that your business is open and operating, but we will also verify that. So if once you fill out that certification at the end of the 5th year, you send that certification to us. Once we receive it and verify those things that you certify to, we can grant forgiveness of the rest of the loan balance. So essentially, because the loan has no payment or interest for the 1st year, you will start payments on the 2nd year, 3rd year, 4th year, 5th year. And then if you qualify for forgiveness after the 5th year, the remaining payments for the time after the 5th year will be forgiven. We would need to receive that certification form first and verify that information. And once we do that, we'll grant forgiveness for whatever remaining payments are thereafter.
And there was a question I think related to that in the Q&A as well. That 1st year where there's no loan payments, is there interest accruing during that time?
No, it is not. There's no principal or interest payments. And I'm sorry if I did not highlight that, because that's another great thing about this product. For the 1st year, there's no principal and no interest accrued, no interest payment for the 1st year.
I have another question that came in, and I may ask them to submit this one, just submit an email as well. My business is a single member LLC, and its code comes from the IRS list of business codes. I do not use the NAICS codes. Is this a problem? I have a person that prepares, she's a tax preparation and planning business.
Oh, okay. And they do not have a NAICS code?
Right. And that may be a Christina one too, because I know that with most of ours, we do identify them based on the NAICS code. So it's either a Christina or a NIE question.
Yeah, there's no issue. Basically with a NAICS code, I mean, you can, there's an auto find selection through the application that will help you identify the closest to it. But it's not like the grants where you had to be identified by your NAICS code, because we have to make sure you fit into the definition of an SBA small business. This is a lending product. So we're just making sure you're actually a micro business, and we look to your revenue and full-time employees to fit that. So it's a little separate and different on this product.
Since we have you, Christina, I have another question that came in for you and I. Financial statement. I'm an insurance agent that does contract work through my LLC. Is a financial statement that you need my monthly commission statement?
So we're not requesting financial statements unless you haven't filed a tax return. So if you haven't filed your tax return, there's not going to be a way for us to really verify the revenue. So that's why we would ask for those financial statements, and we would look for like a P&L essentially, so we can help identify and project your revenue. So it's really going to depend on your timing of operations.
And for those that don't know the P&L, could you just make sure that when we use acronyms, we make sure that we know what they are too for everybody else, Christina?
Yeah, it's a profit and loss statement. We'll also put up some templates for people as well. We'll provide them because we're basically going to have to do that outreach to get them from the business owners. So that's something, as you're assigned to a reviewer, we would work with you to be able to get that.
I'm going to just keep going through the questions, Caitlin, since they're up. If the business has been open for 6 years, but business transferred ownership in August, does it still qualify for the loan? Still DBA, the original name is just a different entity.
So it's going to be based on when the entity was formed. So you would have had to change your formation documents when you transferred the ownership. And so as long as that is beyond that 6-month window, you would still be eligible. If you just did it recently and you're, still too new, you would not be eligible. So it's going to depend, again, look into your formation document and when you actually transferred the ownership.
And this is for both Nye and Christina, because this is coming up quite often throughout here as well. If I received any of the grants during COVID that EDA offered, will I still be eligible to apply for this product?
Yeah, that's the blessing of this. So the grants were under federal resources, and thankfully Governor Murphy provided this under a state appropriation. So because of that, these are two separate funding sources, and there's no duplication of benefits that you have to worry about.
Another question that came up, and this is for the folks that are asking that have home-based businesses. This is a good question. If I am a home-based business and did not have another separate physical location out of the home, would I still be eligible for this loan?
Yeah, that's a question I have to look to my rules too, because we actually address this in our rules. And I believe you would be, there's a certain stipulation, and I know all that keeps coming into my head is around bed and breakfasts. So please just send the email, so this way we can, make sure that you would actually be eligible. I don't want to mislead anybody. So if they can just send it to the small business services at NJEDA.com, that would be helpful.
There's a lot of questions that are also coming up about timing. With previous products, there may have been a little bit more of a wait time. Is there an estimated guess for how long this will take from time of application to time to receive the funds? I wish it was tomorrow, but it doesn't work like that. So Christina and or Nye, based on your experience, what do you guys think for this answer?
So it will be based on obviously volume of applications received, and then that will determine the benefit. I know a lot of people have brought up the improvement grant. So this is going to be a more streamlined process because we'll be able to do some checks on the back end, whereas it's just a different process essentially. So hopefully it should not take long, but I don't want to make false promises. But what we did do is we allowed you to be able to go into, after you've applied, you'll be able to log back into the system to see your cap. And your cap will have a status that will help, so you'll know when you've been assigned to your reviewer as well.
Fantastic. There's another question just about credit. An individual gave 3 different credit scores, one rating in the 500s, one in the 600, and one in the higher 500s. If out of those 3 credit scores, one is a 600, are they still eligible for this grant?
Yes, yes. Any owner that's on your formation documents, as long as somebody has at least a 600 from at least one credit bureau, you are eligible.
Another question, are legal services, expert/technical consulting, and our website development services eligible expenses under this loan?
Yeah, I saw that when I responded. Yeah. Yeah.
Now you guys are good? That's a yes on that one?
Yeah. Christina replied to it too. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go to another one from 218. Would I be able to use these funds? And I think now you answered this. Would I be able to use these funds to pay a higher rate SBA loan that I needed to stay in business during COVID?
So
No.
it cannot be used to refinance any existing debt, any debt at all. No refinance. No, unfortunately, no.
Okay, good answer. What will happen if I receive a loan and then my business stops operations before exhausting the loan?
So if your business goes out of business or you completely stop operating, you would be required to continue paying the loan. So you would not be eligible for forgiveness. If you should default from paying the loan, then you would not be able to apply for any other EDA programs in the future.
Very good, thank you. Another question that came up, my business is actively seeking to hire a new marketing specialist. Don't look at ours at EDA, we're keeping all of them. Can this future payroll qualify? And what documentation would you need to confirm this as a future expense? So this is related to future expenses.
So the marketing firm that you're working with would put together some type of proposal for you, most likely. And so you would provide that, and you would say when you're applying for your application, it's a marketing expense, and then you would just provide that actual dollar amount tied to the proposal, and that's all you would have to supply.
Thanks so much. Another question that came up, and this has come up a few times, how will NJEDA ensure the applicant uses the funding for eligible uses only?
We're calling for a self-certification based on the volume. After, you would have closing, you would have to use the funding as you said you would. And then in order to get your forgiveness, there would be a self-certification that you're still open operating, that you've used the funds accordingly as stated in your application. And again, can't exceed the other criteria of like your payments can't be 90 days late as well too. So, and then you would continue making your payments, you file that form, and then we would supply the forgiveness for that.
Thanks so much. And this is an intricate question that came from Robert Buckley. Does the portal bring up the right questions based on previous answers? In other words, if the CEO/authorized contact /owner is not authorized to speak to the media or sign forms, will we actually see web forms authorizing others? It's an interesting question. I'm not sure.
So if you're not the authorized representative, it's going to prompt you into a different field to fill out those questions of like who you are essentially, but the system doesn't remember technology from product to product either. So you just have to be mindful of you're selecting this product. I also recommend for everybody to please test your login information. If you've already applied for something, please go make sure that your login and password works, write that down, make sure it's ready to go. And you basically start from scratch on every different product as well too. But if you are not the CEO or representative, you basically select one of the responses. And then once we email these slides out and post them online, you'll be able to see the questions that it asks you from that point forward.
If all of our employees are currently part-time, how many part-time employees can we have prior to application?
And that's the benefit of this product. We are looking to your full-time employees only because as small business owners, we know that it's very expensive to have full-time employees. So the part-timers do not hurt you in this scenario. It's not a full-time equivalent, it's full-time employees only.
Right, I have another question. This is a timing question that's coming out from a few people too. My business was incorporated on 04/14. I'm a week shy of the 6-month time period that's required. Are there any options or flexibility?
No, sorry, it would be waiting until you're eligible essentially.
But we do have a suite of other products for small businesses that are listed on our website at njeda.com, just in case. Can I use the microloan to buy or sell, to buy a separate business?
No, it's for working capital only.
Okay. Is a business without any gross revenue still eligible?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Are food truck owners eligible? That's an interesting one.
Yeah, so I saw that one too, which I responded. It is considered, they were asking if it was considered rolling stock, and this person who was applying, I think they were looking to buy additional trucks. So that would be an ineligible use for that. So they would not be eligible.
So there's two, because someone did ask if they could use the fund. So there's one, I guess, I think there's two separate ones, not the one under rolling stock.
Okay.
It just, are food
Just
truck
for-
owners eligible? Like, is that something that's considered an eligible use for this?
We would allow that to be considered eligible. There, you know, as long as, again, has to be registered and in good standing with the state, right? Formed in the state as well too. And then, but it can't be using for, you know, the question regarding buying a new truck, that would not be eligible, but the operations of your food truck, we would allow that. Yeah.
Awesome. This one just came in. Thank you, Alberto. If the business has been open for 6 years, but the business transferred ownership in August, does it still qualify for the loan? And I feel like we answered a similar question, but I want to make sure we got back around to this one.
Yeah, again, it's going to be based on when they actually filed their new formation documents in New Jersey. So again, when you transfer ownership, you have to transfer the formation document as well too, and put it in your name. So whenever you had did that, as long as you are beyond the 6-month window, you would still be eligible.
Hello, you said we can start the process of registering now, but if you have an account, do you need to go into the application center and go in to redeem the invitation now?
So they have a login and password already?
I'm going to say yes. Carol, if there's anything different from that question, let me know. But
Yeah,
apparently the assumption is that they do, yeah.
It would still be sent to them, so they have to verify it still.
Mhm.
Exactly, yeah. Again, we're just reassuring you are the accurate and right person. You're not a bot, essentially, so that's why they have to do that.
Different question. What if your business hasn't generated income in the past 3 years and there are no tax returns for reference? How is that handled? That's when I say, if you just send us an email,
Yeah,
Tammy, I'll
yeah.
make sure that we respond to you on that one. So Tammy, if you want to just put your email in the chat, then we will make sure we follow up with you on that one. Because again, we want to make sure that these are businesses that are operating, that are running, and that need this capital to be able to move forward. So if you just make sure that you send that over to us, that would be great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Another thing that's asked, and this is a good one also, Nye, for you, is this loan personally guaranteed? Is a co-working space as business address considered work from home? So 2 questions. Is this loan personally guaranteed? And is a co-working space as a business address considered work from home?
Okay, so there are no personal guarantees. So that's the other great benefit of this, no collateral required as well. And then if it's a co-work space, meaning, okay, so they don't necessarily own it, but they may, okay. So I would say, I don't know, Christine, what do you think? So it wouldn't be home based. It wouldn't be home based.
It's not home based, yeah. So it's not home based, but they are allowed to use a co-working address as well too.
That's excellent. Okay, fantastic. Another question we have is, we registered our business in 2020, but never opened our store until November 2022. Do I still have to provide IRS documents?
You opened the business in 2020, but you did not open the, so you did not begin operating until 2022?
Right, so they registered their business in 2020, but they never opened the actual physical location or the store until November 2022. Do they still have to provide IRS documents?
Christine, I'm going to defer to you.
Yeah, so we're going to request tax returns as long as you, so for some people who haven't filed or maybe haven't, you know, if there's an extension, you would pursue the extension. If not, then we're still going to request that you have to provide financial statements in some way, shape, or form to be able to, you know, again, we have to make sure that the revenue threshold is just below the 1.5 million in gross revenue. So if you're not making gross revenue, right, then there's nothing to provide essentially. And that's why this product exists, to help kind of support these businesses, knowing that that is the case where some people form and they're not actually operating yet. So it's going to be depending upon, you know, everyone's scenario.
Thank you for that. So really quickly, there's been a couple of questions about access to the application portal. And I believe that Nye and Caitlin both put it in the chat, but I'll also make sure that, again, that this goes out when people get the closeout for this, that folks have that portal. It's also on our site, but it's also right now the last section on the chat. That's where the application portal is. Caitlin has put that there, and we can just repost it as many times as needed to make sure. So we're coming to that time, Nye. Christina and Caitlin, so I'm going to defer to you. There's still some questions that I know folks had. I tried to consolidate everything else that we have, but I've pretty much pulled out the basic ones that I kept seeing over and over in there.
Yeah, thank you so much, Todd, for your help with that. So one of the things, again, is that we just want you to make sure that you are prepared for application launch. So we provided the resources in the chat. You can go to our website today to review the application product eligibility requirements. You can review the resources like things as far as just securing your tax clearance certificate, the application checklist, the schedule of debt for nonprofits, and also be able to chat or email our small business services team as well. Should you have any questions that you may not have been able to get answered today. The application does go live on October 6th, so we want to make sure that you're completely and fully prepared to be ready to submit your application. Other than that, I do thank you guys so much for your time today. We had a really great audience and a lot of questions to go through. So we do apologize that we could not get directly to yours.